Well, thanks for joining us today on the Big Blue Podcast. I'm Leigh Goodson, and I'm joined by my co-host this afternoon, Dr. Greg Stone, here at the McKeon Center for Creativity at the Metro Campus. And our guest today is Cindy Shanks, Dean of Engaged Learning at TCC's West Campus. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm just fine.
Yeah,
thanks so much for having me.
It's kind of foggy out there today, and
it's kind of cool. We would call it, my old best friend and I would call it a quadrophenia day because it reminds us of quadrophenia. And we wanted to listen to the music and watch the movie. That's what we used to call it. It's quad day.
Okay. All right.
Just nothing to do with engaged learning.
Well, seems like you associated with something with something else. I'm sure that's in some pedagogy of some kind, right? So
yes, there's much that Pete Townsend could teach us. I would agree with that.
Absolutely. Well, we're really glad you're here. And we're 1 year into the reorganization of academic affairs and the existence of the Division of Engaged Learning, which you've been leading. Yep. And tell us what are some of the accomplishments we've already seen that you'd like to let everybody know about now that we're kind of in it now.
Yeah. Well, I think the most exciting thing for the division is the existence of an actual framework. So we had a strategy team rather that came up with competencies that they felt like were associated with the job description and were the kind of aspects of a faculty member here at TCC that we'd want to see developed. And they are outcomes-based education, scholarship of teaching and learning, diversity and inclusion, and professionalism and reflection. So we've got a framework. We've got kind of a comprehensive plan around those competencies. We've got coordinators who are working really hard to align workshop and other opportunities with those competencies, and that's probably for me what feels like the biggest accomplishment.
So sort of a profile of what an excellent TCC faculty member, some characteristics, professional characteristics of an excellent TCC faculty member.
Well, that's right, and it gives us direction too in terms of aligning what the development opportunities should be, how they should be offered, and it gives the coordinators themselves the chance to collaborate in terms of some of that work. And I would have to say that that's another thing that I'm really proud of, all the work that the coordinators have done and our endowed chair have done in terms of just the way they work together and the way that they try to align some of what they're doing as well so that we can have a comprehensive and integrated program. I mean, that's just, we have a long way to go. I mean, we're still building infrastructure, frankly, in terms of some things, but I'm really proud of all of the work they've done. It's been a lot of work over the last year.
It has.
But they've all done incredible jobs.
And I guess we could remind everyone who's listening that engaged learning is everything from professional development for faculty members, service learning, instructional design, honors, undergraduate research.
Right. And then, of course, we have a faculty development coordinator who's over all of that and helping to move all of that down the road in the way that we want to happen and to help folks work together collaboratively as well. So, yeah, we're taking some of the pieces that existed in the college previously and putting them all into one division and providing a lot of support, and a lot of the support staff in the office is really wonderful as well. We've got the first year experience folks who are at Southeast Campus. Now we have Mary Steinsick has come back and is support staff for Lori Coggins over there as well. So we've got, we have Lynn Richmond, who is an honor specialist who's helping the service learning program as well in terms of support work. So yeah, we're trying to model that collaboration and help each other out as well as we can too.
So what are some of the guiding principles that all of those different elements, which sort of previously those that existed were happening in pockets here and there, but now that we have this division that's sort of bringing all of that energy together, what are the guiding principles that are sort of helping to hold all of that together?
And we do have some actual ones that we defined in our catalog, and I guess first and foremost, which is alignment. So we want to make sure that everything that we offer is in some way tied back to the competencies in one way or the other, and many of them actually articulate more than one competency, in fact. So that seems like best practices to us. So alignment and accessibility, we would like for, we're trying to make things more accessible for adjunct faculty who tend to work during the day and are only available in the evening. So we're trying to make that happen. We've got some work to do in that regard as well. But community building, collaboration across faculty status in that sense as well. So we've got a program this fall called Observe Your Peers, which was opened up primarily to adjunct faculty in terms of sitting in and watching somebody in terms of a teaching strategy or classroom management strategy. And then we've got a teaching showcase that will come. Actually, at the end of the month already, our first teaching showcase will be on November 30th, where people can come back and kind of share something that they did or some sort of assessment piece that came out of an engaged learning workshop. And it's just another way to kind of, pay it forward and share what you've been doing. So alignment, accessibility, collaboration, and certainly the importance of a focus on high-impact practices. And that's really the heart of the division in terms of helping faculty members integrate high-impact practices, and also to kind of to be open to institutional high-impact practices as well, which could include something like Starfish, and other institutional practices that facilitate student success and student support in that sense. So, those are the most important pieces. I think people most often associate the high impact practices with us, but really there's a lot going on there beyond those
There is.
as well.
Talk to us a little bit. You've taught using high impact practices, and it's something that that's always been part of us, but with the implementation of the Pathways Project here at TCC, we've put more administrative focus on it so it gets the infrastructure and support it needs. Tell us about what have you learned about the value of high impact practices and how faculty respond to them, because it seems like at the beginning you talk about it and you try to promote it, if you will, and some faculty are like, I think I'm high impact already. And so how do you, tell us, once you actually get into it, what does it reveal to you as a faculty member?
Well, I would just say that first of all, the research shows that if you look at the kind of practices we're talking about, which includes some of what we've already discussed in terms of service learning, undergraduate research, some sort of first-year experience, maybe even writing intensive courses, learning communities, study abroad opportunities, all of those kinds of opportunities, that they are educationally enriching. And of course, they frequently, in fact, involve learning outside of the classroom and other forms of support. So including, I guess it's important to note, too, that they do include what I would define as enhanced interaction with faculty member. And so there's a lot of feedback, there's a lot of support, there's a lot of touch points there. And so I think that the most salient part of all that to me is that they're front loaded. I mean, they're a heavy lift. And so the most important thing that the division can do in terms of promoting the use of high impact practices is to provide the support that is needed to develop them, to backward design the course, to be able to integrate them effectively and to assess them effectively. So there's got to be a support structure, and I think that some of the maybe hesitancy on the part of some faculty members would be that there is knowledge about the fact that you're losing a little bit of the control of the classroom. It may feel like, although I hope it does not, but it may feel like you're eliminating time for content and lecture, because I hope not, because frankly, I think if you've got lecture and reading and writing and writing outside of reflective writing even, you've got the full package. I mean, that would be what Fink calls, a significant learning experience, an integrated significant experience, if you've got all of that. And optimally, you do. But it's really incumbent upon us to provide the support to support people, in doing that, because it is. The research is pretty indisputable. It is enriching. It is the kind of thing that is sticky for students. It increases persistence. It increases retention.
And it's worth it. It's a heavy lift that's worth it.
That's right. That's right. It's exciting. It's creative. And, one of the values in engaged learning, one of our primary values is the notion of creativity. And I hope that that's what faculty can see as well, that integrating, one or more high-impact practices does allow for some creativity that can kind of shake up a class that you've taught for a long time in a way that makes it very interesting and exciting, maybe a little scary, yeah. But, we ask our students to feel that discomfort sometimes, too. And it's maybe not a bad idea, particularly mid-year. Something I forgot to mention a few minutes ago in terms of the division is that it's a comprehensive program that hopefully is tailored to people at different points in their careers as well. And so that might be, in fact, particularly pertinent to someone who's kind of mid-career and looking for something a little different to do, And it's also educationally enriching.
I'm Greg Stone here with Dr. Leigh Goodson, and you're listening to the Big Blue Podcast, and our guest today is Cindy Shanks, and we're talking about the new division of Engaged Learning. Cindy, one of the things we've been able to do this last year is do a little bit of restructuring so that we have our two previous instructional designers, Professor Linda Brown, Professor Jennifer Campbell, working directly not just with online learning now, but sort of more broadly in engaged learning, and then the addition of Leigh Morris as a third instructional designer, which was fantastic because certainly there's a great need for that. Talk to us briefly about what that sort of means for the larger project.
That's a really exciting part of what's happened this past year in terms of having those three folks come in and to be able to directly work on course and program design. And so they're bringing all of their expertise around backwards design and other types of design as well, to not only to engage learning workshops, which they're doing personally, sort of a continuation of some of the things they've already done, but just in terms of entire program rewrites. So, for example, that's what happened over the past year with First Year Experience was an overhaul, really, of the entire course. Which was backward designed into a highly integrated course that did integrate one high impact practice service learning into the course, which is now required. So, not the course, but the service learning project itself, 4 hours. So it's been an incredible addition to the division. We're so excited for their presence, and I think that what's emerged and what's really exciting as well is that other folks in the institution have found out about their existence and have kind of made some contact and will you help us with this certificate series, help us with this program component, and they are thrilled to do it. So they're bringing all this expertise. It's going to be highly formalized for us next May with a design institute. So we'll have a design institute beginning in May for faculty members. Where you can go in individually and work on redesigning, work on learning about backward design, and then you could go on to do different design options in your own courses. So we have that, so kind of a very direct benefit, and then the indirect benefit of their work with co-curricular programs on campus as well. So yeah, they're very busy. So we'll have to be careful with that, but they're very excited to be doing that on a full-time basis as well.
That sounds exciting.
It is.
So we're a couple of years into this strategic plan, and you've been responsible for various parts of it, particularly geared towards engaged learning and proven practices. And you've also formed an engaged learning advisory board. And so just to provide ongoing support and advice and where are the faculty going, tell us about the role of this advisory board and who's serving on it.
Well, to be honest, we're still kind of working on the membership to a certain extent. We had, frankly, we had a Strategy 1F1G meeting set for October 31st, and then we kind of realized, we're kind of done. And so we're thrilled to say that we're complete more or less with the strategy. We kept the date. We lost some members. We brought in some new members. So we have some of the same faculty members who are serving on the strategy team, including some of the coordinators, but not all of them. We have at least one administrator besides myself, Harriet Dudley, the Dean of Child Development Education. We have some staff from diversity and inclusion, and some other staff as well. So, including our library liaison, who's now Amy Lagers this year. So we have a new library liaison. So it's some of the same staff. We're working on reaching out to a few other people, but yeah, we feel like we need some external feedback on our program, on our directions, that kind of thing. But we'd like to find an adjunct faculty member as well to put on the board. So we've got a few other folks that
That's a nice diverse group of people that are in various parts of the learning process. So that's really good.
Just really quickly, where do you want to see engaged learning go in the next 5 years?
I think that the notion of collaboration, I think, is the big picture for us in terms of, keep going with the institution-wide collaboration that's already happening. I think that, in particular with diversity and inclusion and global education, there's just some natural relationships that are there that really need to be exploited is kind of an ugly word, but you know what I'm saying. Just there's so much that can happen there, and there's so many ways that we can facilitate the work that all of us are doing. I also think that there's a role for engaged learning in terms of interinstitutional work. So we've already started working with a couple of four-year partners in town in terms of some of the service learning work. So I mean, it's kind of a smart thing to do right now in terms of the budget, but it's also
Absolutely.
It's also just a way that's going to facilitate the movement for students, between the two institutions as well. So we're real excited about some of that work that we're doing interinstitutionally. But I think that between those two things, that's going to be the biggest direction for all of us. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question off script.
Yeah.
Where do you, and I'm going to ask both of you at the same time, where do you see these best practices and principles of engaged learning and, sort of the profile of a faculty member an excellent faculty member that really understands engaged learning and high impact practices? Where do you see that going in terms of bringing on new faculty? Where does that start? Have we already started that process as we bring in in ATE?
Well,
and in the hiring process, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think traditionally those things have been presented in ATE, but we have plans to do the Design Institute actually in ATE, hopefully beginning this fall.
Nice.
And so that will be a much more just intensive experience. Because
so for fall 18, ATE starting fall 18, that'll.
And I think just centralizing the hiring of full-time faculty into single departments rather than 4 departments at 4 different campuses provides some just a better opportunity to look for faculty members who demonstrate those competencies that we're looking for, and just having them now outlined and official means that we can make sure that we're tailoring our searches for faculty members around those competencies that we've identified as being priorities for the institution.
Gives you a venue to keep things consistent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good.
And to keep hiring great faculty members.
Well, we ask everybody the big question at the end of the Big Blue podcast. And so if you could go back, Cindy Shanks, in time and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice before you started college, what would it be?
I think you guys have heard this before, but I
oh, yes, because you've been on the show when it was video also, right?
I was, and the thing I think that always comes to mind first for me is I wish I had done or gotten a little bit more of a practical education along with a very theoretical education, because now in my middling years, I noticed that, gee, I wish I could do carpentry. Gee, I wish I knew something about electricity.
Yes, I do
gee,
remember your answer to this.
Gee, I wish I knew something about, just more hands-on things. And it's not that I can't learn them now, although I think it takes a little bit more to learn at this point in life. But I wish I'd just been a little bit broader in my conception of education, and maybe taking a gap year, because I can see, doing service like with something like City Year, frankly, or doing going
in a
on
structured environment of some
Sierra
kind.
service trip or something like that. Boy, I wish I'd done that.
Yeah.
And not to say that I haven't had comparable experiences later in life. I have. I've been very lucky that way, but
I think those structured opportunities for a gap year are really good.
Yeah.
I'm not so excited about just taking a year off.
Yeah, just bumming around.
Just bumming around. Yeah.
Backpack around Europe for a year.
Yeah, drone moms don't get so excited about that. So.
If I were a slightly different kind of person, I think I would have liked that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
good.
probably,
Yeah, good. Good
remains
advice.
the answer.
You've been listening to the Big Blue Podcast. Thank you, Cindy Shanks. We want to thank our guest today, Cindy Shanks, for joining us today, and we want to thank you for listening. Remember, you can catch the Big Blue Podcast each week, in the week at TCC, and on the Creativity channel at YouTube. Thank you, Greg. Have
Thank
a
you.
great afternoon.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Cindy.
Cindy.
Absolutely.
Really good to have everybody here.